Well, it's been 12 days and counting, and Kamala Harris hasn't taken questions from the press or even sat down for an interview since emerging as the presumptive Democratic nominee. So when will she finally address the country? We're asking Fox News contributor and Outkick.com columnist Mary Katharine Ham. You know, Mary Katharine, she took a question last night, but I'm curious when the press will be clamoring for what is in their interest to have unscripted moments from Kamala Harris.
I'm not sure. And also, it's sort of hard to hear the question last night, but it sounded a little bit like, Madam Vice President, what do you think? Right?
Yes.
That was the tough one she got. In the first access that they've really had an opportunity to shout something at her, I think this is a total dereliction of duty by the press. We are not sure in this moment where the Middle East is on the verge of a large conflagration, where Khalid Sheikh Mohammed is getting plea deals. A lot of things are going on right now, and I'm not really sure who's doing the job. President Biden answered some questions last night. He also stood slack-jawed next to her while she answered the one she was given. And I think we can all say that this feels sort of like a power-sharing agreement of some kind about which the media has no curiosity at all. There's not one think piece about how we should be concerned about this. And look, if she wants to be the President of the United States, we should know where she stands on issues. She keeps issuing these statements from her staff that say she's completely reversed her decisions. The press, if they do not press her on these things, are allowing her to cosplay president with all the trappings of that job without the pressures of that job. And that is not fair to the American people, because they should have a full understanding of exactly what they're getting into. By the way, can I read like the extemporaneous bit she did last night? This is just an extraordinary testament to the importance of having a president who understands the power of diplomacy and understands the strength that rests in understanding the power of diplomacy. The fact that in an easy setting, you have 5 seconds of extemporaneous thought and that's it, means she needs to be pressed.
So, Mary Katharine, I'm not holding my breath for the press to push for access. They won't. We need these unscripted moments. To your point, the American people deserve it. So how does the Trump campaign force her off script? You know, I'm saying call for a debate sooner rather than later. Don't wait till September.
Yeah, I think I've changed my mind on this, because originally I thought, look, they changed the game in the middle here, and I'm not sure what obligation you have to play the game once they've switched out the players. However, if Trump has a job to do that the press will not do, okay? So he needs to be out every day talking about her policies, talking about her switches on policy, talking about how she's to the left of most Americans and most American voters, certainly independent voters. And I think you're right, Kayleigh, that calling for a debate and your posture being like, yeah, basically anytime, any place again, is the way that you're going to get her off script, because that is 90 minutes where she does not have a binder. That is 90 minutes where she has to stand and answer questions. And there will be hopefully a handful of tough ones from moderators. And even if not, Trump himself can offer some.
You know, after Trump's interview at the NABJ, J.D. Vance was asked about his remarks, and here's what he had to say to a reporter.
What I question is why she presents a different posture depending on which audience that she's in front of. She'll say one thing to one audience, she'll say another thing to another audience, she'll say something totally different to another audience. I mean, just in the past 2 days, she went from wanting to ban fracking to not banning fracking. She said she wanted to defund police, now she doesn't want to defund police. She puts on a southern accent in Georgia and a totally different accent in California. I think she's a chameleon.
You know, Mary Katharine, I think chameleon Kamala is an interesting way to frame her if done exclusively on policy rather than the personal. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Vance takes that question and pivots nicely to what the campaign should be talking about, and well done to him. I would also point out in the press's sort of inconsistency, just this morning, I saw one reporter had asked 10 senators about Trump's NABJ appearance, and one question has been asked of the person who is running for president in the Democratic Party, but they can get 10 senators on the record on the other side. It is just so lazy, and it's because they want her to be the president, and I wish they would do better, but the Trump campaign is going to have to do it for them.
Without a doubt, and Trump showed up, he took questions. I await Kamala Harris to do the same. Mary Katharine Ham, thank you very much.
Would love it.
Would love it as well.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.